Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Backholder Pod. So I think today we are essentially riding on the current trend where it's one of the closest topic where many Singaporeans pull close to our hearts around this idea of retirement and basic income, what's the basic standard of living, etc. So there was this recent report that was released jointly by the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy and also NTU, where they tried to address what's the minimum income standard for 2023 amidst this rising inflation and all these issues around how much is really enough. And this was a very interesting topic because it got the attention of the government, evidently. And for many people that say that the PAP or the Singapore government has complete control over the media and our educational institution, evidently not, because it drew a joint response amongst three different ministries that they tried to address the issue of having, like Boon Tee's background suggests, needing around $6,600 per month for just basic living. I think the keyword here is really basic living. So if I can share my screen quickly. Okay, so the title essentially, everything, the devils are in the details, but the title just suggests Singapore actually drew joint response from three separate ministries. And based on the report of the different researchers published on Thursday, they said that a family of four, consisting of parents, a preteen, and a teenager, needs at least $6,693 a month to afford a basic standard of living. And I think the more interesting part was really this idea where they were propagating. They said that they encompass needs for belonging, respect, independence, security, and social participation. So those are very fluffy, very, for lack of better word, highfalutin ideals. Because what they're essentially trying to say is, hey, if you don't have at least $6,700 a month in terms of basic living, means that you don't have sense of belonging, respect, independence, security, and social participation. So I think I'll just leave it as that. I also don't want to share too much. I just wanted to get the opinions around the table on what the rest think. Maybe I'll just get Eric to opine on this. What's your perspective? Do you think not having $6,700 in cost of living per month, does it lose your sense of belonging and respect in Singapore?
Initially, when I saw the figure, right, I told my wife that, hey, so much, man. Family of four need to spend so much for basic living. I mean, I think the report claims that it is for like basic needs. It's not really for wants, like not buying iPhones and all those things, not drinking Starbucks. Uh, and I thought to myself, I thought it was really very high. Then after that, I think I went to take a look at the report, right? I wanted to see what they were counting towards the needs, right? Not sure whether you guys have gone in to see the calculator. I did one for myself because I only have one son, right? So I did the one, and then it's also gender specific. I'm not sure why. This probably
Guys
maybe
destroy more things, so you need to replenish toys. That's a higher cost.
no, really, if you look at the breakdown, right, their weekly breakdown, it is really not extravagant. It is really not, and it's really very, very basic. Like, so this the weekly breakdown. This from the calculator from the study. So for me, I have like married lah, and then one kid, 7 years old. So you can look at all the expenditure. This is per week, Food is like $90, like food court like 170. So it's like for one family, one whole week. And then all this clothing, personal care, all this, it's not very extravagant. Like housing, I know my housing is like I think I'm paying about 1K for a month. So it breaks down to about 250 per week. So it's pretty close. It's pretty close. In fact, I think is a bit under, right? Yeah, but for now, the housing, I don't think you can get at this amount. That's my personal take. Then all the household thing, insurance is like was very cheap though. You sure you can get so cheap? Insurance and all this, I think I'm a little bit skeptical. Social participation, like all these are really like holiday expense. How can it be like $23?
No, like
Maybe they
it should be accumulative, then they divide by
Yeah,
per week.
yeah,
Mm.
probably. Then tuition per week, $57. Are you serious? No lah, cannot be. Much more than that. Yeah. So the weekly budget of like 1,001, I personally feel that it is quite low lah. If you want my take on it, I think this budget is really just the basic stuff. I'm not sure what's the big hoo-ha from the three ministry. Like, no, you probably only need 1,000 for a family of four. Like, come on. At this day and age, 1,000, how to survive?
Hey guys, have you heard?
So what, your stock 10x ah?
Not yet lah, but Weibo Fund any amount promo is back.
Wow, any amount?
Any amount. You fund $1 also can. Then you'll get free gifts.
So if you haven't signed up to Weibo yet, you can sign up using the links down below.
But wait,
Family of four.
I want to correct correct Eric a bit, just in case they want to prof us. According to the three ministry, they were saying that this is including all the extravagant stuff lah. So it's not really the basic standard of living. So stuff like food, lodging, but just basically the stuff that you are required to survive lah. Because the name is minimum what is it? MIS, minimum income standard ma, the minimum that you need to live ma. But for this, they include the wants and the needs. So it's not just the minimum already. It includes the stuff that what they say, to have what the sense of belonging, those kind of stuff. So
That's the more debatable part, right?
Yeah.
Like Eric's sense of belonging might be $10,000 a month, but my sense of belonging is $1,000 a month. You get what I mean? So that's why it's very hard to set a blanket like, oh, this is the enough. But I believe having more conversations in this space allows for us to try to enrich the discussion and know to roughly gauge how much is enough or not enough lah. So I think Eric has made his stance. I believe because three of you are all fathers, so you guys can opine on this factor because you guys have real life case studies, right? So Eric has said that 1,001 for his family, nucleus of three, with a son that is in that age range is considered really, really basic already. Then now passing the time over to Boon Tee, now maybe just give us a context of your spending and your family as well. And based on the calculator, is it an over high benchmark to pass, or is it really just the basics?
So this one, I put in my details. So 2 sons with the age. Okay, then I multiply by 4 just to get the monthly numbers to make it easier, because usually budget we are looking at monthly instead of weekly. I just look at this briefly. In general, I agree with what Eric just said. Stuff that is listed here, these are all very basic stuff. Of course, there are recreation, entertainment here, but it's not like the excessive part. I don't think it budget for Europe trip, Japan trip, that kind of things inside here. So these are very minimal one. Okay. But if I just look at this, right, and ask myself, is my household expenses is at 6K? I think it should be less than 6K, but not like super a lot lower than 6K lah. I think it's about right now. It's just that if I look at the item per item, right? Yes, I share the same observations with Eric. The housing purchase, right? I think even mine, I bought a very cheap place, right? But still I need to pay like about 1,200 per month. So I think this is like tend to overstate. But on the other areas, for example, like hawker foods, 865 plus food, non-alcoholic beverages, I don't think we spend so much on food. The reason is also because my wife, she's doing like cooking half of the time. The other half maybe we just like buy from outside the hawker foods lah. Then the other parts, which is the social support services, I think this one including the like childcare, those kind of expenses. For my family, both of my children, they are attending primary school. So after school, they just come back home, right? So we're not sending them to student care. So we don't have these expenses here. So you can see here, like you reflect the housing, like it should be higher here, lower at food, and also social support services. This is 0 for me. That's why I think I probably spend slightly less than 6K here. So yes, I would say that it is considered on the basic side, but not the minimum type of expenses. I believe that, let's say, if you just like for me, like a family of 4, even if I spend, let's say, 4,500 per month, right? I don't think that is like, living in poverty type of situations.
Can I just very quickly interject a little bit? I think, right, the study did not include your allowance to your parents. Correct or not? I don't see that anywhere.
Yeah, that's not.
And I think, right, for most Singaporeans, like we are like a certain age, right? We have aging parents that probably no longer working, and we need to like not need to lah, but we out of filial piety, we want to give them something, an allowance maybe. So I would say on average, from what I know lah, is about 500 per pax to all the way to 1,000 per pax, depending on the individual lah. So I would say that a rough average is like adults if your parents are still here, most likely you are giving about 1K to 2K on average, which is not accounted for in the study. So I think it is quite presumptuous to assume that all of us don't need to support parents. Yeah, so that is a very big expenditure. It's probably a quarter of what is listed there.
I think it's a definition things, right? Like, would you consider the allowance that you give to your parent as your like considered like part of the minimum spending that you have to make? Like, it's a must. Like, you are supporting your parents, then it is a must, right? It is
a
like
must.
same as like your children, right? You don't
Yeah lor.
feed your children, they can't live, right? Same for the parent. Or like some people may think that, okay, parents, they should have their retirement plan, so it shouldn't be included in these definitions. So it's a definition kind of argument. It's not to say like you don't have to like support your parents, you know. Yeah.
I would say a lot of our parents, their generation, right? Like those now in the Merdeka and all that, right? I think their generation, they didn't have it easy, you know, because Singapore was still a kind of developing country, maybe 40 years ago. So for them, their CPF barely enough just to buy their house, and then the whole thing is depleted. And for my case, right, my parents even use their OA to pay for our university fees. So their CPF is totally drained, and it's because of us. So I think at the end of the day, we got to ask ourselves, hey, if our parents did all this for us and they got so many kids, and then now is it not all right for us to, support them a little bit? Yeah. So I don't know. I think for us in the Asian context, this is actually a very important piece, which I was very surprised that it was not factored in. And now we are saying that we are debating whether or not is this the minimum and all that, is this basic needs. If you put that in, I'm sure you'll burst, you super burst the 6,006. Yeah. So I'm quite curious what people have to say about that. If they were to factor it in, I think it'll cause a much bigger hoo-ha, right? Imagine the headline, $8,000 for minimum standard of living. Wow, gosh. Kelvin, anything to say?
8,000 as in both sides, right? Because the guy and the wife and the husband need to pay 1,000 each, right? So you're already calling it at the
Hey, no.
lower.
Don't misunderstand me. Like 8,000 is like I'm just factoring in like one side. Because it's also very likely that you have both sets of parents to support. It's likely also. Yeah, it's not everybody, their parents all like very
So become
wealthy.
10,000 per month, MIS, right?
Okay lah, I think we can maybe take one set of parents
Right.
and then do an average maybe.
Yeah, I want to ask Eric. Just now you say the parents that don't have enough in CPF is because of us. What do you mean by that?
No, because for at least for my parents, right, their jobs are very low wages. Like they earn like 800, 600 a month. That was a reality like 40, 50 years ago. So they earn just enough. Then their CPF have like very little. So over like 40 years of working, right? My dad, I think he actually worked 2 shifts. So one shift is 8 hours, work 16 hours a day. So he basically work, sleep, work, sleep. I don't think he ever took a day off except for Chinese New Year. So that's how much they have to really hustle to bring us all up. So circling back to your question, right? You say how come their CPF not enough, right? They don't have the luxury of our CPF now, right? It's like our pay is like 5-6K, and then got employer and all that. I think my dad's pay is so low, right? The CPF is like not I don't even know whether is it enough to pay for the HDB then. I think paying for the HDB and then after that paying for 2 of our university education, which amount to I think about 40 plus K, totally wipe out his their CPF lah, 2 of them. So now they don't have any CPF. They do have some savings lah. So I do feel obligated, sort of, to repay them because of what they have done for us. So yeah, that's why I thought, I can't be the only one in these shoes. I think a lot of people are in this situation. They have young and they have their elderly parents. And I think that this is a conversation that nationwide we need to be aware of lah.
But that's the thing about all these studies, right? They are trying to model I would say, let's say like an average profile, because like you say you have to support your parents, but some I mean parents of your parents' peers, right? Some of them could have, you know, like five children or 4 children, and then it's like not like one person need to support, you know, like 4 parents. It's more like, okay, they have 4 or 5 siblings, and then each one maybe just give like, let's say $500, they still have like 2,000, 3,000 to spend, right? So I think every person's situation is different. But
give you a bit of context, in Singapore, right? In Singapore, in the 1970s, right? I think government, specifically Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, right? He put down this policy, stop at 2. So the 3rd child onwards, right? You will be penalized, so-called fine. You have to pay some sort of a fee for your 3rd child. So I don't think a lot of people in my era, right, they actually have like super big families. Like I think the generation just before mine, they have super big families, like 5 to 10, 12. But at my era, 1970s to 1980s, right, I think government cut down to stop at 2. It's only during I think the late 1990s or somewhere there, right? Then they see that our population xiao liao is going to like 1 child and everything. Then they start to encourage have 3 or more if you can afford it. But my era, my generation, I think quite a lot of people have 1 or just 2 maximum. Yeah, my dad paid the fine lah because I'm the 3rd child. Which thankfully they didn't kill me. For that I'm a bit
They can send you away. That's what people in China do.
Well, that
Anyway.
didn't shoot you into the wall.
Back to Kelvin's perspective on this.
Mine is actually
Personal.
quite similar to Eric's the expenses lah. So no much comments on that. So what it shows is that what Eric said is more or less correct. Because people who are 65 now, quite a large number of them have CPF amounts less than 100K. At 100K, you will only achieve the basic retirement sum in 2023, which will only give you $870 monthly payout. So basically, the payout is not enough for old people to have a basic standard of living. Then that's what the government has responded. They say, we are trying to fix this issue by providing more assistance schemes or whatever. So I think this report is showing where the problem is. People who have lower than average pay, they don't have the basic standard of living. Then second is the people who are older, they don't have enough CPF to meet their basic standard of living. They don't have enough savings, so they have to rely on their kid. Then now comes the second problem. If they don't have enough money, where the money is going to come from? So are we going to expect corporates to give higher pay? For that, I think the government has introduced this progressive wage model thing. So they'll slowly increase the pay for the lower retail workers. I guess that's okay. I think this whole thing is it affects more for the poorer population and the older population. For the rest of us who have went to uni, this is not so much of a problem, right? Yeah.
I have 2 points to make. I think first things first, it's really the government's core stance on why a minimum wage model is not the right way to go. Because if we even have a debate, so long a debate about talking what is the minimum standard of living, how can they come up with a sufficient enough number to say that, okay, this should be the minimum wage for Singapore, right? Because like I said, the needs of one differs from one person to another. So they did, I mean, in their joint statement say that set too low, the wage floor will benefit fewer workers. Set too high, workers who are less skilled risk losing their jobs. So it's not necessarily the best way to achieve decent wage. So that's the first point. I think on the second point, I wanted to address what Kelvin said. So now I'm in the group that just graduated. So you can see that our median income for graduates pay is out there. Let's assume that if you take a couple that wishes to start a family, and then let's say the average pay is 4.5K on average, and then both of them are 9K combined income. So now let's say a family that wishes to go for a bigger family. So now the government has been encouraging, right, to give birth to more kids. If let's follow that report and we say that we are only just meeting basic according to what Eric and Boon Tee's experiences are, right? Like basic, you need 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 if let's say you want to count in your parents' allowance, right? Then how are you exactly encouraging when you are basically just telling them to burn most of their cash and burn most of their income at the earlier age? Of course, we can say that they're going to have better career, better income, they're going to grow out of their career or to grow into better careers. But I think just at the start, when a lot of people probably argue that it's in the prime age for many of the girls below under 30, right? Or under 35, if I'm not wrong. How would you then encourage the younger folks to want to give birth to more when this is the current cost of living that we're looking into? And a lot of their social support schemes, I don't think it works for a lot of the younger folks because the income is considered high when the government wants to do policy adjusting, like all your CDC voucher or whatever. Some of them are I wouldn't say discriminatory, but it's pegged to your income. So if you have high income, you go into a household, your household income is more than a certain percentage or per capita, you won't get many of these supplementary things. So that's just one of the topics that I wanted to kind of address also. I want to talk about. I don't know whether you guys have an opinion on it in terms of child rearing and starting a family in Singapore.
For this, I will let me just try to defend the government a bit. Not that I'm a PAP supporter or PAP opposer or something like that. I understand where they are coming from. A while ago, while the whole election thing was going on, I go and check out Taman's debate. He was interviewed by some people. So they asked how are you dealing with people who have fallen through the cracks? Like, I know for US or whatever, other places I don't know exactly where, they are giving them a fixed income if they are jobless or something like that. But for Singapore, they don't really do that. So what Taman said that he believes in the theory of trampoline. So he believes in hardworking Singaporeans. Basically, the government will reward you if you are hardworking, and if you're not hardworking, they will try to motivate you to go and work basically. That's because Singapore is heavily reliant on talent. So if we have too much of this, I would say, right, for lack of better word, freeloaders, right? I think it will just doom the entire Singapore. So to encourage more people to work hard, so they will have good stuff like low tax. For Singapore, the first 20K, you don't have to pay any tax. But for US, right, the first $1, you already pay a 10% tax. So that's a very big difference. So I guess, are you willing to work in somewhere in US where the government will try to spoon feed you, but in return you have to pay a higher tax, higher insurance, higher hospital bills, higher education fee, whatever? Or are you willing to work hard in Singapore, right, and be able to take back a large sum of your pay? So that's the thing, But with that, there will of course be people who fell through the cracks, right? Like the poor people, like the older people that I mentioned earlier. Just because for CPF, the basic retirement sum has been increasing very fast. So the older generation, their pay hasn't been able to increase as fast. That's why their savings has not been able to increase as fast. And now they don't have enough money to retire on. So in defense of the government has been giving out quite a lot of money to them.
I think I get where you're coming from. So at the end of the day, it's a balancing equation, right? So I'm not saying the government has an easy job, but what I was trying to kind of get back in terms of from a fresh grad perspective, right? Like if you're encouraging people to want to give birth to more kids, I think the incentive system has to be aligned with your objective, because that is how you drive behavior, right? So of course you tell me that today every kid that comes out, you're gonna give the family 50K. I'm sure people will start giving birth like nobody's business, or 100K.
Actually, they are more or less giving the amount already through the baby
The baby
bonus
bonus.
scheme and all the subsidies. If you go through the SGH, the Singapore Government Hospital, you basically don't have to pay any money to deliver a baby. Whereas if you go to a private hospital, right, it's easily 20K and above. So you can think of that as a 20K subsidy. Add in all the baby bonus, add in all the school fees, at least $300. I'm sure Boon Tee will have felt that when he converted to a Singaporean, the huge amount of savings as a Singaporean, not a true blue Singaporean, a freshly minted Singaporean. He will have felt the huge savings really. Yeah.
Actually, on that part about the delivery part, I think what they're doing is reducing friction, but not necessarily incentivizing behavior. Because I personally feel it's not. I went to check in terms of the baby bonus scheme. I think for the gifts now it's around 11K for the first two child, 13K for the third and onwards. And then there is first step grant, maximum government grant. So you work out the numbers probably around 20K, excluding the delivery stuff lah. So what I'm saying is, in terms of, evidently it's not working, because if you look at the numbers just keep going down in terms of our birth rate. So if let's say you are role playing the government today, do you have any perspective on this, on how you're gonna encourage this behavior, or what incentive you're gonna include? I'm just interested to know. Because evidently now, if you are talking about a family of 4, you're having a $7,000 monthly expenses based on the BIS report, based on the MIS report.
I feel like there's no easy direct way to encourage, because if you want to give more money, right, you have to be prepared to raise the GST by another 2-3%, or you go and force GIC or Temasek to raise their return by another 2-3%. So I don't know. Either way, you just, like I said, you will just doom the entire Singapore just to raise the birth rate. Or an easier solution is to just import more talents already. But that's basically what every other country is doing, right? Not just Singapore. And thanks to Malaysia, I don't know, it's a good thing. Thanks to Malaysia for producing all the good talents. Yeah, so I don't know, there's no easy way to do this lah.
Right. I think, okay, to circle back to the main discussion about this monthly expenses, household income, we kind of get a consensus, like at least amongst the 3 households, that the distribution might be different, but I think the number is right around there. I think if you add in a few other considerations, like let's say allowance to parents, it's definitely going to blow some of these numbers away. So I think just to maybe round up this topic, right, like I just want to get the perspective, like maybe from Boon Tee also. What's your take on, is there a better way, or just advice for general Singaporeans on how to go about this huge issue of high household expenditure or high cost of living in Singapore?
I think with regards to kids, right, because I'm purposely want to mention about kids is because, let's say if you don't have kids, you're just supporting yourself, right? I don't think the expenses is that high. I mean, with like housing, BTO, and then I mean, eat at hawker foods, right? So it's not like high expenses. The high expenses usually is associated with kids. So like, education, childcare, all these things. And then, I mean, everyone just have to do their own budgets. So if the budgets doesn't allow and you still want to keep your, keep the money for yourself instead of spending on your 3rd or 4th kids, right? Then you just, I mean, have less kids. I think that's the reality, right? Everyone have to do their own budget things. But the thing about kids is also that if you do too much calculations, right? Like before you have kids, you press on your calculators. After you press the calculator, actually, the conclusion is quite simple. Right? Just like have less kids. I think that is like a very logical kind of decisions making. But on the other hand, I mean, we are living in this world. It's not just like, focusing on logical thinkings, right? It's all about like how you get fulfillments, right? And I can assure you all that having kids, right? Like in my situations, 2 kids, I'll tell you like, okay, the fulfillment side is really like, you cannot describe using like calculator, using money, just looking at them like growing up and then playing with the stuff that they like. I think that's something that you cannot get from, like having more money and spend that money, So it's different type of fulfillments. So yeah.
I think that's actually a very good roundup and conclusion for the episode. I think Kelvin and Eric, anything to add? If not, we will. Remember to smash that cute little like button before you go off. And I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. And I do believe that this is a very contentious topic where many Singaporeans from both sides of the aisle are going to have a lot of opinion. So I just highly encourage you guys to remain civil. And if there is anything that is uncivil, we'll just delete and block. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any pointed questions for any of the panel speakers, please feel free to leave in the comment section down below as well. With that, we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.